Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tech Gamers World. In this video, we're going to take off from one of the most challenging airports in the world, Paro International Airport in Bhutan. So let's get it started. So this is Microsoft Flight Simulator being played on a Microsoft Xbox Series X. Let's go ahead here and go to World Map. Here is Paro International Airport. Now Paro International Airport is regarded as one of the most dangerous airports to take off and land from. There are a ton of restrictions that are in place to ensure a safe takeoff and landing, and we'll go through those as we get set up here. So we're going to be flying today in an Airbus A320neo, the version 2, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and panning over the airport here. We have a couple of different areas to start from. We're going to start from ramp 10, and we're going to then taxi down the taxiway to the end of the runway here and take off on runway 33. So weather is set for sunny, and it is set for the middle of the afternoon local time. Now let's talk a little bit about this runway. This runway is super challenging to take off and land from. Takeoffs are not as hard as landings, but yet still are challenging in their own respects. Paro International Airport is nestled between two 18,000 foot tall mountains, which makes it incredibly difficult to land at. As such, it's given a Class C rating category or rating, which means only pilots with specialized training can take off and land here because of the obstacles, which are houses, land, trees, mountains, the variable weather conditions, especially the thermal conditions, which is wind. Super windy makes it incredibly dangerous to take off from. And obviously, thin air, being 7,000 feet above mean sea level, as you can see here, 7,323 feet above sea level, makes the air very thin, which means the plane has to go faster to stay airborne. So let's go ahead here and get this plane ready to fly. So we'll go ahead here and close this checklist. Here we'll start from the very beginning so you know how to start up this plane. So here we are at Paro International Airport at gate 10. Now gate being a parking area, because there really are no gates. You would have to walk out to this plane and board through mobile steps. You can see there is a taxiway which will take you all the way down to the end of the runway. So why again is this airport so dangerous? The things I said, the altitude, the obstacles, which are the mountains, the trees, the buildings, the thin air, and the variable wind. The wind is so variable that they actually don't allow you to land after 12 noon. So if you want to land here at this runway, you have to land before 12 noon local time during the day. So that limits when planes can land at this particular runway because it's that dangerous. Night flights, not allowed. No takeoffs or landing because there is no radar here set up around. So there is no way to know what's around you plane-wise and ground obstacle-wise without visual inspection. So when you land here, it's a manual landing. There's no autopilot landing. There's no assisted landings. There's no radar. So you have to do it all manually, which is why so few pilots are certified to land here. As of 2024, only about 50 pilots in the world are rated and classified as being able to take off and land from Paro International Airport. So that's, limits really what goes on here. Now, an airport like this is not going to have that many, visitors, landings, etc. So they balance it, of course. But I expect in the future, as tourism always continues to grow as there's more people, the amount of pilots that can fly to the Paro International Airport should increase. So with all that said, let's get this plane started. So to start up an Airbus A320, we're going to go ahead here and go up to the checklist, and we're going to work through this checklist. Now I'm just going to have autocomplete happen on every page because there is just a ton of stuff to get this plane started. So starting up APUs now. If you're interested in how to start up an Airbus A320 or any other plane, check out some of my other videos in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have a bunch of videos on how to start up Boeings, Airbuses, regular propeller planes like Cessnas, Learjets, business class jets, all that stuff on my Microsoft Flight Simulator playlist, including how to take off and land. So, while we're waiting for this here, we'll just continue to do our inspection. Here, looking around, we can see that instrumentation lights and screens are starting to come online in this Airbus A320. So when they say an Airbus A320, Airbus obviously, is the plane you're flying and they refer to it as an Airbus. 320 is the number given to this particular Airbus. And then the model. And then the Neo, so when they say Airbus A320neo, Neo means new engine orientation. This is the newer model of the Airbus A320. If you're on an Airbus A320ceo, that's current engine orientation. So there are two different types, Neo being newer, ceo being older. So we're waiting here as the co-pilot takes care of all these things. Alright, that page is complete. Let's start with cockpit preparation now. Let's go to autocomplete page. Again, there are 94 things that you'd have to do before you could start up this plane for this particular checklist. So, doing our engine testing here. Waiting on all these to finish, and there we go, page is complete. Before pushback is next. So we're doing all these things here, page complete. Before engine start, go ahead and do all these things, check. This is to line. Next up is before engine start, checklist number 2. Page complete. Before engine start, checklist number 3, below line. Engine start time. So here is when we're finally starting up these engines. So let's do that here. And let's go ahead, switch to the external view here so we can see both engines. There we are. Now when you start up any plane that has more than one engine, you're always going to start from the higher engine and work your way over. So right to left is the usual method. So engine number 2 is going to start first, as you can see, which is on our left in this visual view, but the pilot's right, so it's always right to left, because again, you're looking at the perspective of the pilot or co-pilot. So the Airbus A320 needs to ramp up to 20% of rated thrust to be considered idle. So it's going to do that first. What you're going to do is have engine 2 ramp all the way up to 20%, and then monitor the gauges and instrumentation down here to ensure that the engine is performing as expected, as you can see in that center console there. So now, waiting on engine 2 to fully get to its idle speed. Now once it reaches 20% of rated thrust, you would do your engine idle parameters check. Make sure pressure's good, oil's good, temperature's good, gauges all look good. Then engine 1 would start. Now at this point, you're going to be almost ready to get moving. But you want to again always triple verify that all of your gauges, instrumentation, engines are performing as you'd expect. As you can see, flaps are moving, ailerons are moving. Rudder is moving in the back there. You can see it on the tail. So I'm flying today in a Thrustmaster T.Flight HOTAS 1 flight stick connected up to my Microsoft Xbox Series X. If you're interested in learning more about the Thrustmaster T.Flight HOTAS 1 flight stick, check out some of my review videos and update videos on this flight stick. I've had it for a number of years, and it's really cool. It's a great entry-level flight stick for the amateur to, slightly professional flight simulator flyer. I wouldn't consider myself a professional, but I would consider myself better than an amateur, if that makes sense. So, both engines are now at their optimal idle configuration, and the page is complete. So after engine start, we have to finalize some stuff here. Flap set, all of that good stuff. After start checklist, anti-ice as required. So now is time to do the taxi out checklist. And before takeoff checklist. We'll go through all of these here. And then we can do this as well. Alright, we are ready to see if we can make this plane move. Okay, so here we go. Let's release. So what you want to do is make a gentle, and when I say gentle, I mean very gentle, left-hand turn to get out of this parking area. So you'll see that while it's not entirely realistic, you're able to get out of here without the use of a pushback, because there is none here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and follow this dotted path here. I left the taxiway assist on here so you can see where we're going here. So in real life, the plane would have been pushed back following along that pushback line right there. But since we don't have that, we're just going to go ahead and follow it this way. And we are going to taxi down this taxiway here. You can see there is nobody else but us. So as we prepare for takeoff here, we're going to get ready and make sure that our plane is ready to fly. By this point, you should have checked all engines, all landing lights, takeoff lights. Everything is set for the optimal configuration. And we're going to go ahead here and just make sure we stay centered on this taxiway as we head down towards the runway. Once we get down to the end, we'll request our takeoff clearance, and which, depending on the airport, may or may not happen automatically. And then we'll take off. While we're taxiing here, just take a look around here at these mountains. All you see is just mountains everywhere. Don't worry about the excessive speed. I'm just traveling down this taxiway here, and there's nobody in front of us. We can slow it down with the brake. So as you can see, we can slow it down with the brake You just have to be very careful to maintain a safe taxi speed. As we come up here, we're going to make a left-hand turn to taxi onto the runway and prepare for takeoff. And we'll hold short of the runway once we get into our final position here. This is a good spot to hold short. Apply the parking brake. And now let's reach out to air traffic control and request takeoff.
Paro Tower Techcomer 1982 heavy ready at runway 33 straight out departure.
Techcomer 1982 heavy windcom departing straight out approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 33.
Cleared for takeoff runway 33 Techcomer 1982 heavy.
So we are cleared for takeoff. So let's release the parking brake and we will slowly move forward onto runway 33, which we can see right here. As you can see, there's nobody around us but mountains. So, to take off here, you're going to make sure that you're centered on the runway. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be pretty close. Now we've got a lot of runway here to take off from, but we're going to need our speed. So let's set the flaps down one setting. Flaps are at 10%. Let's go ahead here and throttle up to 100% of rated thrust. As you can see in here, the engines are throttling up, and we are ready to get this plane airborne. Airspeed's alive. 70 knots. $110 knots. So let's pull back on the stick. So V1, we're rotating. We are airborne. We have a positive rate. Let's put the gear up. Gear is coming up. And we are on our way. Let's retract the flaps. There we go. We have taken off from Paro International Airport in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Paro Tower Techcomer 1982 heavy frequency change.
You can see there's nothing around us other than mountains. I hope everyone enjoyed this video. As always, if you can click that like button and subscribe to Tech Gamers World, I'm always going to have new and exciting content coming all the time. Thanks a lot, everybody, and I will see you around. Keep on gaming.
Squawk 0